Hey, everybody, welcome to the Machine Shop Growth Podcast. My name is Mike Fritz. I'm your host, and this is a special episode this week. Kirk and I are together. It is just about an act of God to get us together these days on one of these shows. But that's why one of the reasons we split up is it was too hard to coordinate our schedules. But we did it today. We're bringing you a joint episode where him and I are going to talk about what are the topics in the industry that's flying around right now if you want to grow. And we'll bring that up in a minute. And so just a couple quick announcements. If you haven't subscribed to the podcast, make sure you do so you get notifications. We put out an episode every single Tuesday. We alternate the first and third Tuesdays. I'm on talking about sales, marketing, growth. The second and fourth Tuesdays, Kirk is on talking about ops, the floor, people management, how you actually make parts profitable after they hit your floor. And then once every quarter or so, we try to do a joint show just riffing on the industry and talking a little bit about what's hot. And the machining industry, some people are busy right now. Some people are slow. No matter what you're in, you've got to focus on growth. Even if you are busy right now, you have to focus on handling and prepping. Or if you're slow, that's obviously your number one thought right now. You've got to be focused on growth. So the big thing we want to talk about this week, though, is when and if you add a second shift. And Kirk and I have some pretty strong opinions. Kirk has some really good thoughts about a second shift. And when I first started buying companies, almost every single company, no, I will say every company I bought, one of the things they tell you, a way you could add revenue to this shop and grow this shop, in fact, you could double this shop without any capital expenditure, is just add a second shift. Add a second shift, and it's like shops that have a second shift are almost this higher tier, and people think like, oh man, they have a second shift, they must just be busting at the seams. Well, hold your horses before you just go and add a second shift. So, Kirk, welcome to the show. Let's dive into this topic that seems so sexy, but it might not have the abs people think it does once you get up close.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of it has to do with scale more than anything, right? It's how much resources do you have to dedicate to the management of a second shift, all right? So
Mm,
if you're a sub $5 million shop and you're just typical owner operator, maybe you got 7, 8 guys in there or something like that, and um, you don't really have the resources that a $50 million
sure.
manufacturer has. It's got 200 people working there or
Yep.
whatever.
Of course. Yeah.
Um, so, a second shift is a little harder. So what I kind of like to look at, most people that are going to be asking the question are the people making under $5 million. Like
Yeah.
that's just the truth. And so what I always like to look at is like second shift, I should have such a refined process that by the time I go to start a second shift, I don't need it because
Mm,
I could put a robot on it, right? I could run lights
bingo.
out on a pallet pool or whatever.
Yep.
It's it for any second shift to be successful, you have to have either one of two things. You have to have robust off shift management or very, very uh, detailed and interactive instructions on how to do what you're doing, or you're not going to sleep, or you're going to come in and there's going to be nothing done.
Yep.
Those are options.
100%. 100%. Yeah. Let's pause there because I think there's a lot to pull apart there where it's like, or a lot to talk about there where, first of all, so let's say I am doing 2, 3, 4 million. I'm in that decide, oh, do I get another machine? I really need a couple more machines to really start growing, or do I just add a second shift and then I don't have to add all the capital expenditures? I can just go get a few people and that sounds so logical. I mean, like that pencils all beautifully, but there is a real big X factor here that second shift qualified management is a very, very difficult thing to find, right?
Hmm.
And I don't think people give that enough credence I mean, think about how much trouble we find solid programmers, solid setup, solid operators for first shift, like much less second shift. But think about we're all talking about the employee shortage. And man, it's tough to find good people. But we're talking about for once you go to two, and now you have to
Yep.
go and find that programmer that's badass, that's really good, and you got to say, hey, by the way, you okay if you're here till 11?
Right.
And
Right.
you know what I mean? And you okay, like when your kids are home and they're doing homework and their soccer games, are you cool to miss all that? Like that's what we're talking about. We have to know
Yep.
what we're up against. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And it's not always like it's not a rule. Like it's not a standard. There are exceptions. Don't get me
Sure, of
wrong. There are
course.
people that are willing to do it, but you have to, fewer and far between, I'll put it that way.
Yeah,
And
for
so I
sure.
think, like in my opinion, if you want to go to a second shift, you have to start tiered. Um, First of all, you need to look at what you're doing and make sure, like, okay, well, which parts do I actually want to run at night anyway? Maybe you got some volume parts and you just need somebody to stand there and attend the machine. Well, at that point, again, why don't you buy, say they're turn parts, buy a bar feeder, load the thing up, hit go, and leave. It will run itself. Okay, maybe they're mill parts. Can you run them on a five-axis pallet pool? Can you run them on a horizontal mill pallet pool? Can you know, get a automation cell and park it in the front of the machine? Like there's options to having an unmanned off shift than a manned shift. Now, I get it. I don't have a five-axis machine, or I don't have the pallet pool. I don't want to go spend 100 grand on bolting that thing on. I don't have a horizontal. I don't have a pallet pool. It's costs money to do that. Absolutely, it does. So start simple. If you are afraid to hit go and walk out the door, you're afraid to have a second shift.
I was just
Period.
gonna say, dude, if you can't hit go, push a button and hit go, and you think a second, then a second shift is way more dangerous, in my opinion. I
Yep.
mean, you got a lot of people there. A robot can't sue you if something breaks. You know what I
Right.
mean? And so that's a safety issue. That's not necessarily what we're talking about. Although that does come into play when you have a second shift. There are some more liability issues you'll need to figure out. But think about this for a minute. Let's break the numbers down. So let's say I'm going to bring in a we're in the Midwest, so let's say we're going to bring in a $35 an hour, just floor guy. He could program a little. He's a machinist. Bringing in 35 bucks an hour. What's that, like 75 grand a year ish, seven ish, somewhere in
Yeah,
there.
just wage only. It's probably 85
Yeah.
with
So let's
your
say
tax
85,000 a
benefits,
year.
everything. Yeah.
So 85,000 a year. So if we just said 85,000 a year, just for a good floor guy, right? So 85,000 a year. We're going to divide that. Let's just say by 12. So we're going to be hang on just a second. I messed my math up. 85,000 divided by 12. You're about 7 grand a month. So 7,000 a month for that guy with his package and, maybe his health insurance, whatever, or that girl. So you got 7 grand a month. So what could you do with 7 grand a month in the automation space, right? And so let's chat about that. Well, one of the things I don't know that people know if they haven't gotten machine loans or done some leverage or whatever, if they have some good credit, is you're going to spend about 4,000, about $2,000 every $100,000 a month. So if you get $100,000 loan, it's going to be about 2 grand a month for that payment ish. It goes up or down depending on the terms you get and the interest rate and all that. But it's about, you can figure pretty close to about 2 grand a month per 100,000. You go to 200 grand, it's about 4 grand a month. You go to 300, it's about, and you see what I'm doing. Unless you have to squash terms and they make you do like a 4 year deal rather than a 60 year deal, then the payment goes up. But I'm saying that to say for that, what could we do for $7,000 a month in automation? And this is a really, it's a big deal because that guy, I mean, there's vacation time, there's time he can't be there, but this automation system can happen. So for 7 grand a month, that's going to be what's that? What did I just say? That's three. That's about four ish. A 7 grand. It's about $350,000 in capital expenditure dollars. So let's just break down the money. What can I do for $250,000 just to be safe and conservative? What can I do for $250,000 of automation in my shop? And what would that generate per year? Let's break the numbers down from your perspective, Kurt. And of course, it depends on what parts we're doing, but let's just assume it's a
Yeah.
lathe or a mill part. What can we do for $250,000?
I mean, you could do quite a lot, quite a bit.
Exactly.
And I think that's one thing that really holds the industry back is when you think about the people starting their shop in a garage, or in their barn, out on their farm
Hmm.
or whatever.
Yep.
These are people that pay everything cash. They don't have
Yep.
cash, they don't buy it. And so now you tell them, hey, go borrow money from the bank. They're like, gross. I'm not doing that.
Yeah. Right.
I know of a lot of shops that they're like line of credit.
What is
Absolutely
that?
not.
Yeah. Right.
My line of credit is my savings account. And now part of that. I can't fault them for because
No,
there is security in that, right? If you get slow, you don't have to worry about missing payments and whatever. And as bad as this sounds, I can lay off an employee. I can't lay off debt, right? So if the economy tanks tomorrow and I got to pull that second shift back, I can, it's very simple to have the, conversation with the employee, like, hey, look, we have no work, but I can't like have that conversation with the bank. They're going to say,
correct.
okay, well, maybe we'll give you a month or two, but if you're not paying, we're taking it. And, you know, you've signed your house up against this loan. So now we're going to take your house too, or lien your house or whatever. And, so that's part of the, I think that's part of the challenge too, is just that mental framework. But, back to the other question of, automation is, yeah, it does depend a lot on what type of parts you're doing. But again, when you start talking about how much it may cost to fixture up some of these things, they make there is so many um modular automation systems out there right now where
Yes.
you don't even actually have to pick up the part.
Yep.
These Robo Job, and can't remember who the vice manufacturer is off the top of my head right now. Um, Maybe it was Air Vice. Hell, I don't remember. Anyway, they make a special gripper that comes in, grabs the vise, and you just sit the vise down. And so you just
Yeah.
keep swapping vices and loading and unloading parts and stuff like that.
Yep.
So, I mean, I've even um put out a shoot, I've concepted using a tool changer in a machine for a parts changer using pneumatic grippers and a few other things that we could put, vices with material in it in the tool changer and use the spindle to come down and change it. So I mean, automation doesn't mean robotics always. And again, this is what I mean. It's like you can scale everything. Everybody uses the word scale in business, and you know what? Scale applies to everything, to life, to your
Everything.
hobbies, to everything
Absolutely.
you do. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
so the first thing is increase part density. That is the most cheap and effective way to do it. If I got to run 500 parts on the mill, if you think for 1 second I'm running one of those at a time and I'm unloading 500 parts,
Yeah.
uh, it's probably not
Yep.
going to happen.
Correct.
Um,
Correct. It
Stack as
shouldn't happen.
many, no, and you stack as many of those things as you can in your mill. Um, put as many parts in there, get as much cycle time per uh, M30 or per time you hit the green button, get as many parts in there as you can, as much cycle time, get as much unattended time. Now you're setting yourself up for a second shift because the less management you have to do on a second shift, the better, right? If you get it to where maybe you just have somebody in there that, and maybe they're doing multi-purpose kind of guy. Okay, so let's go back to the manned second shift route. Maybe we get a bunch of machines that maybe he's got to change parts once a night or something like that. That's pretty easy, right? And what does he do the rest of the night? All of your PMs. Maybe
Yep.
let's clean the shop. Let's maybe he can do some inspection paperwork. There's maybe some ancillary tasks that it's like, hey, maybe we can offload some of our day shift guys on some of these smaller tasks, simpler tasks, but him handle it. And then we come back in on first shift, we're ready to hit the ground running again.
Yeah. Yeah.
But again, I think that a lot of that comes from increasing your part density, and on a mill, very simple concept, right? Let's put as many parts on the table as we can. On a lathe, that's a bar feeder, that's a bar puller, that's a something to where you can run a 12-foot bar with a single press of go.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so that's where to start. And there's things for the machines. Like I said, there's if you have through spindle air, through spindle coolant, you can run a pneumatic gripper that will come down and grip and grab your material. So in theory, you could actually stage raw material on the side of your table. So let's say maybe you can only get a couple, or you get a couple parts in there. Fine. Get yourself a pneumatic vise and you could stage bars, you know, Oh, because you have Kurt, well, let me get back up. You have Kurt Vices. So it takes up too much of your table and Y, so you can't get any parts in Y. Fine. Run two parts side by side, stage the rest of your material in some sort of tray or something like that on the side. And then when you're done, use a pneumatic gripper, unload and load your next part and keep running. That's no external automation. That is all G&M code programmed. That's all with you can do the whole thing inside of your CAM package. You don't have to learn anything else. Very simple. Like these are the things. Talk about scale. Very, very cheap to do it this way. I mean, you're
Yeah,
talking,
this doesn't. You're talking some tooling and fixturing. You're not even talking machines. You're not talking bots. You're not talking cobots, robots. You're not talking pullers. You're not talking
yep,
$50,000 add-ons. You're talking about a little bit of money in
under
some
10 grand.
ancillary product. Yeah, exactly. And so,
Yep.
but here's the thing. And so first, as everybody's listening, you're thinking maybe a second shift. And the first thing is you auto. I mean, we actually like a second shift. We just like it lights out with no people. I like a second shift. I like machines running at night. That's a good thing. But what we have to do is think, does it have to have people there? And this changes the mindset. So adding a second shift in its traditional sense is a lot of times not the best way to go. So the first thing you do is before you even, I feel like this is tiered, right? The first thing, as Kirk just mentioned, improve your process with the parts you make with the machines you have. Get add on a little bit of tooling, fixturing, whatever. But let's see if that process gets better. But you know what, Kirk? Here's one of the things I've seen in this industry. You've called it out before. I've called it out before. Both on our podcast, I think, separately. But sometimes, people don't. For example, I've purchased a lot of machine shops, and these guys that are in there running the shops are smart guys, but they wouldn't know how to do that. They've been machining
Yep.
for years and they wouldn't know how to do that. So a lot of times guys are sitting, or women, they're sitting in these shops. They've been running it like this for years. That's how they were taught to do it. They don't know how to think about what you just said to them. They're like, oh, well, wait, say that again. Like they wouldn't think that way. So part of it is being open to the idea that, hey, maybe it's time to pay somebody to come in and evaluate my process and give me some ideas on how to do this better. I don't think people, I think the arrogance in the industry sometimes blocks us from being open to really damn good machinists having a different way of doing it.
Yeah, I think I think there's definitely a degree of arrogance. I think there's also a degree of ignorance because,
For sure. No doubt.
like I said before, my stepdad owns a shop, up north of Dayton. And geez, I think that shop's been around for 35 years, something
Yeah.
like that.
A
I
long
mean,
time. Yeah, for sure.
he's in his mid 50s, so that's been basically his only job he's ever had.
Yeah, it's his life. Right.
And when you lock yourself into those four walls, that's where the ignorance factor comes in, right? Like
Sure. No doubt.
it seems like these things are just these $1 million ideas,
Yep.
or it's going to cost a fortune to do it. And you just don't understand how cheap and easy it really is to do these
Yep.
things and to get them implemented. I mean, I remember when I very first started and CNC was like it had been around for quite a while, of course, but it was like, oh my God, that's nobody can afford that. That's just insanity. And well, if you would have gotten in on it then, you'd be a lot further ahead now. You know what I mean? Because here we are. And if you don't have a CNC in your shop, good luck.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. 100%. 100%. And I think well, I'm glad you bifurcated those two words, ignorance and arrogance. They are different.
yeah,
They the sad thing is they result in the same, but they are different. They what one is just I don't know. One is I don't even I think I know, but I really don't even know that I don't know kind of thing.
yeah,
And the idea here is in your shop, you before you start thinking second shift, do a part eval, see if there's a better way to do it. Call some other machinist guys. I tell you what, the guys I've met in the industry, there definitely is arrogance that lives out there. But man, I've met a lot of dudes that would sit down with me and just go to lunch and look at a print and say, why don't you do it this way and this way and this way? That might be a better way to do it or whatever. And so I do think this industry is open to helping people. I just don't think we ask enough because I think, dude, I mean, come on, man. A lot of us guys, we don't ask for help unless we're dying, right? And so,
yeah.
so we've got to get to a place that, I mean, you think about like what you used to do at a previous role where you built turnkeys for machine shops. It's what they do. Why couldn't they just do it themselves? Well, it's because somebody else knew how to do it better, right?
Oh, it's 100% that happens a lot. I mean, part of it is time. I did one years ago for a company. They were making a part that got brazed together, and went and evaluated looked at their process and said, "Well, show me how this is going." It was going across 8 different machines, and their total queue time from start to finish was about 36 days. I was like, "What? All right, hang on."
Yeesh.
So we went back and did a feasibility study for him on it, and I was like, "Dude, I can get it down to one machine, 2 fixtures, 8 hours total, start to finish." And you run side one on one part, and then you put it on the other fixture, put a new piece of material in. You're making a finished part every 8 hours.
Were they just machine hopping, going back and forth between ops and
Yeah,
stuff?
yeah, well,
Yeah.
yeah. So what happened was they made this part 20 years ago or something like that, got a conforming part, and then the process was frozen.
Got it.
The tier one or the OEM or whatever is like, hey, you can't change anything because you're making a good part. Well, they just kept doing it that way. It's how we've always done it,
Ah,
right? And instead of, doing an audit of your process and being like, hey, this is absolutely horrific. We cannot continue to do this. They just kept doing it the way it's always been done, right? And so now part of that is also time. Like if you're constantly bringing in new projects, when do you have time to really go
yep.
through that stuff? You know
100%.
what I mean? But I mean, I've seen, God, I can't even tell you the number of times on two hands. Somebody gets a part up, they just get it running. It's good. I go look at it. I just had it last week for another company. Went and looked at one of their parts, and I'm like, well, you guys are doing it in 3 ops right now. We can do it in two. Here's how we can do it in two. And you're having problems with your surface finish. Fine. I'll make a different program to work around your machine limitations. 'Cause that's really what it was a machine limitation. It was given them finish problems. And I'll decrease your cycle time by 33% while decreasing your setups 33% as well and fixing the quality problems. So like another set of eyes. And again, sometimes you do things just to get it done. The first time you do something, if you think that's the best you can do, you're arrogant and you're ignorant.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And
I
in
think
some
that's good.
cases, if you go back to the definition, in some cases you might be stupid because
Right.
you're wrong when you say that and you believe it, and so um continuous improvement applies to everything. Your first go at it is not never going to be your best.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing, if I'm 55 years old or 54 years old, and I know I got 5, 6 years left, and I want to sell this thing maybe when I'm 60 or 62 or whatever. Maybe I'm 30 years old. I just bought a shop, or I started one with my dad, or whatever. Doesn't matter. Um, I think it is really valuable to bring in a set of eyes to look at really our process. Somehow get it in front of another master machinist, somebody that really understands part flow, really understands floor management, really understands routing well. Like, oh, when if we did this part this way, we can. I mean, if you're cutting it down from a month to a day in a process, I mean, like you're talking 30x on that shop's capability. That's crazy, right? So before you go to a second shift, I think there's a lot of things you can do to open up capacity in your, and this is not even adding capability, just capacity, really, right? Because second shift is not about adding capability necessarily, it's about adding capacity. And so if you're going to be adding capacity, I think we got to bottom out. Are we making all of our parts, go through all your parts, are we making all of our parts the most efficient way? Because that'll save time, right? And then,
Yeah, yeah,
you know what I mean? And before, but I was just going to say, if we're going to buy, like, add another shift or whatever, we could or if I'm going to add all that money, I could add just a new machine to my current floor that might be 3 times as fast. We've got a couple old lathes at QuickTech. One new lathe would triple the performance of all three of those lathes.
yes,
And so it's like I might buy one machine, knock out three, and double my production because of the speed, right? Or whatever, right? And that has nothing to do with the second shift. That's just upgrading my current shift. And so I think sometimes the second shift gets the sex appeal when there's so many questions we got to ask before we go there, right?
right. Well, and, the other part of it to me is, we created that I created that spreadsheet to like
Yep.
evaluate, hey, what are your projections? Where are you actually like what revenue could you be making off each machine? And what revenue are you actually making off of each machine? And you know,
Which most people don't know. They don't know
you,
that.
they don't even think about that. And
Yeah, no,
so
yeah, they don't know that.
exactly like we looked at Quick Tech and we feel what it says. We feel that
Yep.
the same thing that sheet tells us, hey, we are absolutely maxed on people right now for how many dollars we can make with the people we have, but we have two or three machines that basically do nothing. They're boat anchors right now. So, again, when you start looking at, hey, I'm maxed out on people, yes, but are your machines
Mhm.
maxed out? Hire another
Right.
person on first shift, get the machines running,
Yep.
and
Yep.
now
Yep.
you're making more money, right? And no, of course you got to
Hey,
have the work statement to do that, but yeah,
do the I know the answer to this, but I want you to answer because you were kind of one of these at one of your previous roles. But are there people out there like let's call them engineering consultants that will come in, look at my part, look at my process, look at my programs, and help me make them more efficient? Do those people exist?
yeah, call me.
Yeah, exactly. My point in saying this is my point. So we do this here. We have consulting services that we help shops with because if we have to like look down through a whole part list, we probably can save. I can't make any guarantees because I don't know what your capabilities are or what you're running. But we haven't. I don't know that we've ever seen a shop where we saw everything and like, oh yeah, no, there's nothing we could do. I don't think that we've
Yeah.
ever seen that. But the truth is, this is my point. A lot of people don't even know those guys exist. They're
Hmm.
in. You mentioned 35 years, same four walls starts to look the same every day. It's almost like you get in this trance and you don't think outside of those four walls, right? And that's not talking down to anybody. This is trying to wake you guys up and say, hey, there's some other options for assistance out here that you don't have to add a second shift. Get somebody to come in and do a part audit and a process audit to all your parts and see, oh hell, man, if I save XYZ, I make 52 different part numbers in my shop regularly. I could save a week of capacity. I could say 25% capacity just by changing something. Well,
Yep.
that's a really cheap way to do it compared to adding employees at night, right? Yeah,
Well,
and so on.
I'll give you a good example. The first shop I ever ran, Jesus, was about 10 years ago now. I essentially started their machine shop for them. It was just a warehouse before. And we brought in three lathes and a horizontal mill, and we had about 100 part numbers we were going to run. Now, in a traditional machine shop, the way this would work is they get one part, two parts, three parts, maybe they get seven parts at a time, whatever. And they would just individually tool up each part. Each part was a new part.
Got it.
Nothing similar, right? Well, what ends up happening is you have two parts that have the same exact features in it, and I bet you use two different tools for each part
Mm,
because there's no standardization, right? So what I did on those parts is I said, all right, I'm going to take all 100 parts and I'm going to look through every single drawing. I'm going to put part number on here and I'm going to label every feature. This one gets an M20 hole. This one gets a 255 reamed hole. This one gets, an 1/8 inch groove or whatever. So then what I could do then is I could take every part and I could say, these six parts use the same tool for this feature. These seven parts use the same tool for that feature, and so on. So what does that do? How does that benefit us? Well, it cuts down on our tooling costs. It cuts down on our cycle time because we don't have to tool change as frequently. It cuts down on our setup time because we don't have to go find tools and, touch tools off and things like that because it's already in the machine. It reduces errors because you're not putting the wrong tools in because they're already there. I mean,
right.
I could keep listing all the ROI on this. What you're talking about is, depending on how many parts you have, could be a very negligible amount of direct cost by the shop to go buy the tooling that it needs to make this standardized. And then, of course, you have some fee that would pay a consultant to do that because the problem is, I think the other side of it is the owner operator knows these things could be done. Again, they just don't have time to do it
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they're the glue holding the shop together right now.
Of
And those are
course.
the guys that, hey, have somebody come help you so you don't have to hire a full-time guy. I mean, quite honestly,
Exactly.
that's what we're doing right now. Is I'm doing so little consulting right now that
Yep,
they don't need to hire a full-time guy. They just need
exactly. That's
somebody to
why
help
they're
them.
doing that.
Yep, they need somebody to give them some programs here and there when they need them. When they need them, they need it right now. So they said, hey, you're really fast at doing this. Help us out. Just so happens I used to work there, so they know me pretty well. Um, but yeah, why not? I mean, this has been my vision for a long time was almost creating, I guess you'd call it consulting, or maybe you call it a work share kind of thing. But there's a lot of shops out there, a lot of shops
Yeah, tons.
that don't need a full-time engineer or full-time programmer or whatever. So what
No.
if there's a way we could share
Yep.
those guys between 4 or 5 shops?
Yeah.
Everybody just take 20% of the wage, 25% of the wage, whatever, pool it, pay the guy, and he's yours.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I mean, of course, there'd be some scheduling stuff, and it's a little bit trickier than it sounds. The NDAs and conflict of interest and all that kind of stuff. But um, I mean, because there's a lot of shops out there that would be great, and paying a consultant is damn expensive. It can be anyway. And that's why people probably don't. But that's why for us, we're kind of working on a little bit different model than somebody that this is their only line of business, I guess you call
Correct.
it.
Yeah. And we, consultants are like, or I don't know if the consultant coach, I've heard the difference in the words, but they'll tell you what to do. Like, here's what you should do with your do X, Y, Z. But what if we call it an executionist, where we actually think that like if we come in and we do an eval, we can actually reprogram this stuff for you. We can actually, build the tool list and work instructions for you. So you don't have to do it. You just plug and play to your
Yeah,
own system. This is how we run our own shop, by the way. Kirk doesn't live by quick tech, and he runs it because when they need a program, he programs it, sends the work instructions, and they push play. And he doesn't go down there. Sometimes he does, just check on the team or whatever. But this can be done, and again, the industry I think is coming around to this concept. But man, there's people out here that are good at this, and all they do is just troubleshoot kind of sticky parts that are slow processes, kind of molasses parts moving through your shop and get them on a fast track, so that you can like, wow, we used to make that part in a couple hundred hours of cycle time. We got it down to 90. That's pretty damn good. If you
yeah,
all that goes to the bottom line, by the way. And yes, it's going to cost some money. But the cool thing about when you do engage, and it doesn't have to be us. We're not sales guys, but it doesn't have to be us. But if you do engage somebody, try to engage somebody that'll come in and actually do some stuff for you, and not just tell you what to do, right? And so you get some
yeah.
actual money, you get some actual juice from the squeeze.
Well, that's the thing too. It's like I will never refer to myself as a coach. I
Yeah,
coach soccer. I do coach soccer.
I
Don't get me
was gonna
wrong
say
there.
you coach soccer. I suppose
Yeah,
that's true.
but the oof, how do I say this nicely? The coaching space is a lot of bullshit, in my
Oh,
opinion.
dude, it's 98% bullshit. And what happened? The reason I know it is the coaching industry is under deep fire right now. Guess why? Because this little thing
Fraud?
called yeah. Well, not only that, but this little thing called Chat GPT showed
Ah,
up
yeah,
and
yeah,
replaced them all. All of a
yeah,
sudden now, like, I'll make your life better in 7 steps. And all of a sudden I can just go to chat and get the same shit they're going to tell me. And all of a sudden, all these life coaches that are at Starbucks every morning trying to get clients, they're all dead, bro. Their business is gone. And it's the same in
yeah.
this industry. We don't want to. That ain't what you ought to hire. Please don't do
No,
that. That's ridiculous.
we, you have to provide real value. And here's the thing in this industry, and I know that you've seen it. In fact, I've talked to several, been talking to several people about it. Guys in this industry can sniff out bullshit real fast.
Oh yeah, hell yes,
Um, if
yes
you're
they can.
not going to come in there and be knowledgeable and provide real value, I'll just tell you, get the hell out. Don't come back.
Yeah, yeah, you're not going to be
So,
able to. They're gonna. Which, by the way, is why we split our show up between floor and sales and marketing between Kirk and I. It's why if we do help a shop, I don't help with programming and parts because that's not what I know. Right? It's. I'm not going to go out there and talk. talk metals and G code, I'd sound like an effing idiot. I know none of that shit. And so, but Kirk does. That's his thing, and it's one of his things. And so it's like, so it's one of it's just it. I think that's a good thing to remember. Is there's first of all there is a lot of bullshit, and you can smell it out. These guys smell it out fast.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that's the biggest thing is sticking to your lane,
Yeah, hell yeah,
there's a lot of consultants and manufacturers, reps and people like that that I've worked with before that they all promise the moon and they don't deliver shit. I mean,
no, they don't deliver
you know,
anything.
if
Exactly.
I'm telling you, if I look at your part and I have looked at parts and I've said, wow, that's pretty good, man. I don't think I could beat that. I'll let it there. Like what? Why reinvent the wheel? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But
And
there
two,
are
oh, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
there are things I'm going to look at. I'm going to be like, dude, I can seriously help you on that big time. It doesn't even necessarily have to be like a full redo or whatever. It may just be, hey, open up your cam file. Let's take a look at that and let's make a few changes or something like that. You know what I mean? Um, but the biggest thing is it's not something that I'm not going to come in and oh, I got an idea. Let's design a software to fix your. I don't know shit about that.
Yeah, that's not our
I
that's
have
not
no.
our thing, right? No, no, that's exactly it. And I think that here's why we put our money where our mouth is. This concept of hiring a third party to do something, because again, what are we talking about really in this show? Do you add a second shift or not? We're trying to give you more efficiency where you're already hammering, so you can just let that piston hammer harder on that first shift, get more parts off, make the same amount of money you're thinking about with adding a first shift. I really believe that's possible. But to this point about hiring somebody else, a third party to come in so you don't have to do that, guess what? We do that very thing. Sometimes Kirk's too busy. We have him up doing something. He's doing something for us at another shop or whatever, and we have a programmer that lives in a state away that will send, hey, can you shoot a part over to us? We need this, 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 and this, and we hire him to do stuff for us because I don't need necessarily a 40-hour a week, 40, 45, $50 an hour programmer. I don't need that, but every now and then I do. And so I think this is a concept people don't see that it exists out there like a lot, and we
Yep.
use it even, and we're pretty handy on the tools. We're pretty good with what we do, but we use it. We do the same thing.
Yeah. Well, and I think that there's a lot of distrust out there. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, sure.
Um, you know, I get asked all the time, like, God, why is it really this hard to find a programmer? And for me, I'm always like, I don't know. Like, I don't think this stuff's that hard. It's pretty, but when you're good at something, nobody ever thinks it's hard. Messi's not, if you talk to Lionel Messi, he's not gonna be like, yeah, it
Yeah,
is
yeah,
so hard playing soccer. He's like, no, dude, this
yeah.
is pretty
It's what
easy.
I do, man.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but I don't know what happened, when it happened exactly. I mean, everybody's got theories of what happened to all the programmers, but finding a good one is difficult. And so I think that
Yeah,
that's part of it. But
yeah.
and I'll give a great example. We had a guy at Quick Tech before me,
Yeah.
and he was physically
Oof.
there every day with program parts, and they
They
wouldn't
were
run right and
awful.
all that.
Programs were
And
terrible.
so when I took over for him, I know Matt and Casey were a little nervous, or our guys at Quick
Yeah.
Tech were a little nervous because they're like, "Oof, this guy's going to send me a program from his house, and you think this is just going to go?"
Yeah,
And
right,
the
right, right.
the first couple times they're like, "Oh shit, this is cool,"
Yeah, they're like closing their eyes, hitting the button, like,
Yeah,
oh, come on, I hope this works. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah. And
yeah.
I mean,
No,
like I'm not perfect. Every now and again, there's a small mistake here or there. It's not like crashing the machine mistake, but
right, right.
maybe a diameter will be a little bit big for whatever reason, a chamfer will be a little bit big or whatever. But all that to say is it is more possible now than ever to get
Yes,
remote support
it
from a machine
is.
shop.
And that means, again, remember what we're talking about. What does that mean? We believe you can exhaust a lot of resources before you take on a second shift. Because I see a second shift. I won't speak for Kirk, but I see it as pretty risky. A lot of liability, not only just guys running more stuff, you're not there, or maybe your key manager isn't there. You need another one, and And when, and all that stuff, I think there's a lot of downside. I'm not saying there's no upside, but I think that there are so many questions we should ask about that first shift. We've already talked about it. First, start with before you even think automation, always think process, process, process. How am I making everything I'm making, and can I make it faster and better? Right? That's first. Then, before even automation, is there a machine I could replace that could double my output? Right? Before I even think, and maybe it should be automation first. I don't know. That's probably a six one, half a dozen the other. I'll let Kirk answer that one. But those are both in the conversation of CapEx, adding machinery, adding automation. What should we do? How do we bell and whistle our first shift so we don't have to go to second shift? Right? It's
Yep.
so much better to ask those questions ahead of time. So the first thing is, obviously you got to make sure you have the work coming in before you even think second shift. But all of the stuff we're talking about, the thing I like about all the stuff we're talking about, I think you should be doing this with the work you have, whether you're getting new work yet or not, right?
Yeah, and I think again, like I said, you should be if you think you're just gonna snap your fingers and poof, I got a second shift running now, you're
Yeah.
in for a world of trouble. I'm not necessarily against a man's second shift at all. I don't. It doesn't matter to me if you throw robots on the floor and you run automated, or if you
Yeah.
man a second shift. Hey, whatever you want to do. All I'm saying is, in order to do either of them, you need to start setting yourself up and planning today as if it is an unmanned second shift.
Yeah.
The reason
Yeah.
being,
That's a
if
good way
you
to put it.
if you do put operators on the floor, you're going to be that much easier. You're going to be that much better off.
Yeah. So good.
Um, yeah. So, I mean, if I was going to second shift, I would be starting right now saying, all right, I'm going to run these parts unattended. I'm going to, load all these parts up, hit go, come in tomorrow, and I'm going to refine all my bugs right now. I'm going to figure out what's my tool life. So how often do I need to change tools, inserts, whatever? Do I need to put any sort of in-cycle machine probing in there? So maybe I've got a critical bore or whatever, and I need to comp the tool wear as the ML or the boring bar or whatever it is finishes that bore. Okay, so I need to put some probing in there so we can automate as many processes as possible. I'm not saying you need to do that because people are dumb. I'm saying you have to take as many variables out of the process as possible because you're not there. And the way that a lot of these shops work is
100%.
the owner operator is the system. So
Totally. And
you've got to
yeah, go
you've got
ahead.
to systematize yourself is essentially what you're doing.
100%.
Yeah.
And all financial leaks, almost all of them, and I'm trying to think of other examples, almost all financial leaks come down to either ignorance or human error. So the less human error you can have, dude, we're human. We make errors. So it's just it
Mhm.
happens, especially when you're training new people. And I mean, shit, you're going to make mistakes. So the more you can cut out of human error, gosh, the faster that process is going to be.
Yep.
That's the whole point of documenting your work instruction or workflows and routing and every program, everything. And so again, I think Kirk and I really believe I don't most shifts or I'm sorry, most shops don't need a second shift. I would say almost all the ones I've talked to. In fact, Kirk and I know of one that's adding a second shift. They have no business adding a second shift right now. No business adding a second shift. They need to upgrade the equipment they have, and they wouldn't need a second shift at all. And so again, all that to say, you as you're listening to this, you know that you know where we stand. But let me also just make a plug that if you would like somebody to look at your process, we do that. Reach out to one of us. Just hit us up on LinkedIn. That's the easiest way to get, or you can always email us at mike.fritz at American Precision Partners and kirk.phelps at American Precision Partners. You can email us or hit us up on LinkedIn. We'd be happy to do a shop audit and tell you where you can improve. And then we have different, pricing structures depending on what you're looking for. But we would really like you to actually do something. That's one of our major models is we do something for you. We don't just tell you what to do. And sometimes just
Yep.
telling you what to do and sending you down the road, it doesn't really do much good. But again, any last parting thoughts, man? I'm out here. I'm thinking about a second shift. I think we hit it hard, but what are any parting thoughts about somebody out there toying with it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the biggest thing is just you need to remove as many variables as possible. Standardize everything you possibly can. Um, control as much as you possibly can because you're going to have less control than
Yep.
you would during the day shift, right? So
Yeah,
you
I think that's a
gotta
good point.
build the control into the process. And it's not because we don't trust people, but you know, you just don't know because you're
Yep,
not there.
exactly.
And maybe you got a couple people working there. Maybe one of the lesser experienced guys is over. There's just less visibility, less management, less eyes, less everything on the second shift. I mean, even the big guys, they're doing it.
Yeah,
They're
sure.
automating that. They're
Of course,
controlling the
yeah,
hell out of their process.
totally.
Um,
Well, I've always
so
said this about marketing and sales. If you have a bad product and you ramp up sales and marketing, you just fail faster
yep,
because you're marketing a bad product, right?
right,
Well, if you have bad processes and you duplicate that to a second shift, you just fail faster.
yep,
You know,
100%.
you got to get that first shift honed, and then hey, if you get it automated and you're running 80+% efficiency and things are standardized, and man, you are humming, but you just can't keep up with the work. That's a different conversation.
Yep,
That's a different conversation.
absolutely.
You know
I
what I
agree.
mean? But most shops aren't at that conversation yet.
Yep,
That you can get there, but we're just not there yet. And
right.
so, but yeah, let's not duplicate a process that needs attention. Let's get the attention, then let's duplicate the process. All right, everybody, thanks a bunch for tuning in to another episode. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe if you're on YouTube watching us. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, or if you're on Apple Podcasts or any of our platforms, make sure you follow us on our podcast. And we really thrive off those reviews because it helps us get this podcast to more people. We're really trying to make a dent in the machine shop space and the job shop space. It's just really helping people that are on that island that we talked about today. They just need some assistance, need some help, need somebody to look from the outside. So thanks so much for tuning in, everybody.
So again, if you have not subscribed to the podcast, please, please, please make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Those positive reviews really do fuel us forward, and we'd love a review from you so that we could go and continue to impact people in this amazing industry of machining. So we are so grateful. And again, we are doubling our content this year. No more 2 episodes a month. We're going to 4 episodes a month, and a couple of them will be sales, marketing, growth. The other 2 will be ops, engineering, and the floor. It'll really be the floor, like what happens on the floor, right? We're so grateful for all of you. So make sure that you tune in next week for another episode of Machine Shop Growth Podcast. Thank you all. Have a great week.